All right. It is Sunday, 19th of April, which means it's the 19th day of National Poetry Month, our 19th, actually our 18th iteration of Reading for Paradise Lost, because I miscounted back on like day 13-ish. Anyway, and we are back into the middle of book 8. If you remember correctly, the first half of book 8, we heard Adam asking questions about, honestly, about astronomy and about the way that we understand the position of the Earth in relation to the other planets and the sun and the moon, and right, basically that. And I'm not going to go further, except to say that Raphael was basically like, Adam, hey, relax. Some things you're just not meant to worry about. And so what if the Earth is not the center of the universe? Or so what if this is the model of, well, astronomy that God put into place? Like, don't really question, it's not really going to impact you. Let's focus on the stuff that will impact you in your daily life here on Earth. So it seemed pretty clear to Adam that Raphael was maybe done with his storytelling, since Adam asked a question that was outside of the bounds of human understanding, or like the kind of human understanding that Raphael was interested in. What's the word I'm trying to think of? Humoring. So Adam instead was like, hey, Raphael, I don't want you to go. It's so much fun listening to you. I like your company. We have a good time together. Why don't I tell you about what I remember in my first moments of consciousness? So if you remember back to before, we heard Eve's version of the story, and this time we get Adam's version, which is not exactly unlike Eve's, as they come into consciousness, or the consciousness that they know as living human beings. Yeah, except with this, in Adam's version, Adam came basically pre-programmed, understanding the things that he saw and what they were called and what they were used for, and understood what different animals were and birds, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But he still really didn't understand himself or how he fit into everything. And we leave him, this was an interesting moment to me, we leave him, he takes a nap on a hill, thinking there's a possibility that he might like dissolve while he's asleep, so that somehow like going to sleep would undo his like existence as he had known it. Anyway, so that was an interesting moment, I thought. And yeah, we'll pick up in the middle of that explanation of so what happens next. Ooh, one of the other things I really liked is that Raphael is just as curious about Adam's explanation of his experience of being created as Adam was of Raphael's explanation of everything. Because as Raphael says, like for some reason, conveniently for this part of the story at least, he was gone to guard hell and make sure that no rebellious angels or minions of Satan were able to escape and do harm to the act of creating humanity. It was especially important that that not happen while humans are being created, because, as Raphael explains, the danger would have been that destruction had been somehow woven into the act of creation itself, which is not what being for humankind is meant to be, at least according to this description, in a prelapsarian state. So if they had not fallen, what a big loaded if that is. But anyway, if they had not fallen, then we would definitely, then they would have stayed immortal, and no destruction at all would have been woven into things. And yeah, Anyway, they fell, obviously. So pick the story up and go from there. And I'm going to stop rambling because this preamble turned into like ramble. So here we go. Book 8, line 357. Oh, by what name? For thou above all these, above mankind, or aught than mankind higher, surpassest far my naming. How may I adore thee, author of this universe, and all this good to man, for whose well-being so amply, and with hands so liberal thou hast provided all things? But with me I see not who partakes. In solitude, what happiness? Who can enjoy alone, or all enjoying, what contentment find? Thus I, presumptuous, and the vision bright, as with a smile more brightened, thus replied: What callest thou solitude? Is not the earth with various living creatures, and the air replenished, and all these at thy command to come and play before thee? Knowest thou not their language and their ways? They also know, and reason not contemptibly. With these find pastime and bear rule. Thy realm is large. June. Speaking of things that can reason not contemptibly, and with which I am isolating myself. She almost knocked over my external hard drive, no big deal. Knowest thou not their language and their ways? They also know, and reason not contemptibly. With these find pastime, and bear rule. Thy realm is large. So spake the universal Lord, and seemed so ordering. I with leave of speech implored, and humble deprecation thus replied: Let not my words offend thee, heavenly power, my maker. Be propitious while I speak. Hast thou not made me hear thy substitute, and these inferior far beneath me set? Among unequals, what society consort? What harmony or true delight, which must be mutual in proportion due, given and received. But in disparity, the one intense, the other still remiss, cannot well suit with either, but soon prove tedious alike. Of fellowship I speak, such as I seek, fit to participate all rational delight, wherein the brute cannot be human consort. They rejoice each with their kind, lion with lioness. So fitly them in pairs thou hast combined. Much less can bird with beast, or fish with fowl so well converse, nor with the ox the ape. Worse then can man with beast, and least of all. I'm not sure has been a moment I've been reading this in this quarantine situation, wrestling with June about her toy. I have not felt the parallel quite so keenly as I feel right now when she's not listening to me and does not understand my language. I feel you, Adam. Whereto the Almighty answered, not displeased: A nice and subtle happiness I see thou to thyself proposest in the choice of thy associates, Adam, and wilt taste no pleasure, though in pleasure solitary. What thinkest thou then of me, and this my state? Seem I to thee sufficiently possessed of happiness, or not? Who am alone from all eternity? For none I know, second to me or like, equal much less. How have I then with whom to hold converse, save with the creatures which I made, and those to me inferior, infinite descents beneath what other creatures are to thee? He ceased. I lowly answered: To attain the height and depth of thy eternal ways, all human thoughts come short, supreme of things. Thou in thyself art perfect, and in these is no deficience found. Not so is man, but in degree, the cause of his desire by conversation, and his like to help or solace his defects. No need that thou shouldst propagate, already infinite, and through all numbers absolute, though one. But man by number is to manifest his single imperfection, and beget like of his like, his image multiplied, in unity defected, which requires collateral love and dearest amity. Thou in thy secrecy alone, although alone, best with thyself accompanied, seekest not social communication, yet so pleased, canst raise thy creature to what height thou wilt of union or communion deified. I by conversing cannot these erect from prone, nor in their ways complacence find. Thus I emboldened spake, and freedom used for missive, and acceptance found, which gained the answer from the gracious voice divine. Thus far to try thee, Adam, I was pleased, and find thee knowing not of beasts alone, which thou hast rightly named, but of thyself, expressing well the spirit within thee free, my image, not imparted to the brute, whose fellowship therefore unmeet for thee, good reason was thou freely shouldst dislike, and be so minded still. I, ere thou speakest, knew it not good for man to be alone, and no such company as then thou sawest intended for thee, for trial only brought, to see how thou couldst judge of fit and meet. What next I bring shall please thee, be assured, thy likeness, thy fit help, thy other self, thy wish exactly to thy heart's desire. He ended, or I heard no more, for now my earthly as my heavenly overpowered, which it had long stood under, strained to the height in that celestial colloquy sublime, as with an object that excels the sense, dazzled and spent, sunk down and sought repair of sleep, which instantly fell on me, called by nature as in aid, and closed mine eyes. Mine eyes he closed, but open left the cell of fancy, my internal sight, by which abstract as in trance methought I saw, though sleeping, where I lay, and saw the shape still glorious before whom awake I stood, who stooping opened my left side, and took from thence a rib, with cordial spirits warm, and life blood streaming fresh. Wide was the wound, but suddenly with flesh filled up and healed. The rib he formed and fashioned with his hands. Under his forming hands a creature grew, manlike, but different sex, so lovely fair that what seemed fair in all the world seemed now mean, or in her summed up, in her contained and in her looks, which from that time infused sweetness into my heart, unfelt before, and into all things from her air inspired the spirit of love and amorous delight. She disappeared and left me dark. I waked to find her, or forever to deplore her loss, and other pleasures all abjure. When out of hope behold her not far off, such as I saw her in my dream, adorned with what all earth or heaven could bestow to make her amiable. On she came, led by her heavenly maker, though unseen, and guided by his voice, or uninformed of nuptial sanctity and marriage rites. Grace was in all her steps, heaven in her eye, in every gesture, dignity and love. I, overjoyed, could not forbear aloud. This turn hath made amends. Thou hast fulfilled thy words, Creator bounteous and benign, giver of all things fair, but fairest this of all thy gifts, nor enviest. Now I see, bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh, myself before me. Woman is her name, of man extracted. For this cause he shall forego father and mother, and to his wife adhere, and they shall be one flesh, one heart, one soul. She heard me thus, and though divinely brought, yet innocence and virgin modesty, her virtue and the conscience of her worth, that would be wooed and not unsought, be won, not obvious, not obtrusive, but retired the more desirable, or to say all, nature herself, though pure of sinful thought, wrought in her so that seeing me, she turned. I followed her. She what was honor knew, and with obsequious majesty approved my pleaded reason. To the nuptial bower I led her, blushing like the morn. All heaven and happy constellations on that hour shed their selectest influence. The earth gave sign of gratulation, and each hill, joyous the birds, fresh gales and gentle airs whispered it to the woods. And from their wings flung odors from the spicy shrub disporting, till the amorous bird of night sung spousal, and bid haste the evening star on his hilltop to light the bridal lamp. Thus I have told thee all my state, and brought my story to the sum of earthly bliss which I enjoy, and must confess to find in all things else delight indeed, but such as used or not, works in the mind no change, nor vehement desire. These delicacies, I mean, of taste, sight, smell, herbs, fruit, and flowers, walks and the melody of birds. But here far otherwise, transported I behold, transported touch. Here passion first I felt, commotion strange, in all enjoyments else superior and unmoved. Here only weak against the charm of beauty's powerful grace, or nature failed in me, and left some part not proof enough, such object to sustain, or from my side subducting, took perhaps more than enough. at least on her bestowed too much of ornament, in outward show elaborate, of inward less exact. For well I understood in the prime end of nature her the inferior, in the mind and outward faculties, which most excel, in the mind and inward faculties, which most excel, in outward also her resembling less his image who made both, and less expressing the character of that dominion given or other creatures. Yet when I approach her loveliness, so absolute she seems, and in herself complete, so well to know her own, that what she wills to do or say seems wisest, virtuousest, discreetest, best. All higher knowledge in her presence falls degraded. Wisdom in discourse with her loses discountenanced, and like folly shows. Authority and reason on her weight, as one intended first, not after made occasionally. And to consummate all, greatness of mind and nobleness their seat build in her loveliest, and create an awe about her, as a guard angelic placed. To whom the angel, with contracted brow, accuse not nature, she hath done her part. Do thou but thine, and be not diffident of wisdom. She deserts thee not, if thou dismiss not her, when most thou needest her nigh, by attributing overmuch to things less excellent, as thou thyself perceivest. For what admirest thou? What transports thee so, and outside? Fair, no doubt, and worthy well thy cherishing, thy honoring, and thy love, not thy subjection. Weigh with her thyself, then value. Oftentimes nothing profits more than self-esteem, grounded on just and right well managed. Of that skill the more thou knowest, the more she will acknowledge thee her head, and to realities yield all her shows. Made so adorned for thy delight the more, so awful that with honor thou mayest love thy mate, who sees when thou art seen least wise. But if the sense of touch whereby mankind is propagated seems such dear delight beyond all other, think the same vouchsafed to cattle and each beast, which would not be to them made common and divulged, if aught therein enjoyed were worthy to subdue the soul of man, or passion in him move. What higher in her society thou findest attractive, human, rational love still? In loving thou dost well, in passion not, wherein true love consists not. Love refines the thoughts, the heart enlarges, hath his seat in reason, and as judicious is the scale. By which to heavenly love thou mayest ascend, not sunk in carnal pleasure, for which cause among the beasts no mate for thee was found. To whom thus half abashed Adam replied, neither her outside form so fair, nor aught in procreation common to all kinds, though higher of the genial bed by far, and with mysterious reverence I deem. So much delights me as those graceful acts, those thousands decencies that daily flow from her, all words and actions mixed with love and sweet compliance, which declare unfeigned union of mind, or in us both one soul. Harmony to behold in wedded pair more grateful than harmonious sound to the ear. Yet these subject not. I to thee disclose what inward thence I feel, not therefore foiled, who meet with various objects, from the sense variously representing, yet still free approve the best, and follow what I approve. To love thou blamest me not, for love, thou sayest, leads up to heaven, is both the way and guide. Bear with me then, if lawful what I ask. Love not the heavenly spirits, and how their love express they, by looks only, or do they mix irradiance, virtual or immediate touch? To whom the angel with a smile that glowed celestial rosy red, love's proper hue, answered, let it suffice thee that thou knowest us happy, and without love no happiness. Whatever pure thou in the body enjoyest, and pure thou wert created, we enjoy in immanence, and obstacle find none, of membrane, joint, or limb, exclusive bars. Easier than air with air, if spirits embrace. Total they mix, union of pure with pure desiring, nor restrained conveyance need, as flesh to mix with flesh, or soul with soul. But I can now no more. The parting sun, beyond the earth's green cape and verdant isles, Hesperian sets, my signal to depart. Be strong, live happy, and love, but first of all, him whom to love is to obey, and keep his great command. Take heed, lest passion sway the judgment to do aught which else free will would not admit. Thine and all thy sons, the weal or woe in thee is placed. Beware. I in thy preserving shall rejoice, and all the blessed. Stand to fast, or stand to fall free, in thine own arbitrament it lies. Perfect within, no outward aid require, and all temptation to transgress repel. So saying, he arose, whom Adam thus followed with benediction. Since depart, so heavenly guest, ethereal messenger, sent from whose sovereign goodness I adore. Gentle to me, and affable hath been thy condescension, and shall be honored ever with grateful memory. Thou to mankind be good and friendly still, and oft return. So parted they, the angel up to heaven from the thick shade, and Adam to his bower.